From CGTN headquarters in Beijing, this is The Hub with Wang Guan.
Hello and welcome to The Hub. I'm Wang Guan in Beijing. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez has arrived in Beijing for a 5-day official visit, his fourth trip to China in just 4 years. In a world reshaped by persistent Middle East tensions and accelerating global realignments, this high-frequency diplomacy stands out as a clear signal of stability and mutual priority. The itinerary is packed with substance, high-level meetings with Chinese leaders, visits to Tsinghua University, the Chinese Academy of Sciences, and Xiaomi headquarters, plus business forums aimed at deepening the comprehensive strategic partnership between China and Spain. From frequent visits to qualitative upgrading, what does the 4-in-4 pattern tell us about the maturing China-Spain relationship? How is China's high-quality development creating fresh opportunities for the Spanish industry? Joining us today are in Haikou, Humberto Alvarez, Vice President of the Spanish Chamber of Commerce in South China. And joining us from the China International Consumer Products Expo. In Beijing, we have Song Xin, founder of Sinnvoll Consulting and former policy advisor at the European Parliament. Also in Beijing, we have Andy Mok, Senior Research Fellow at the Center for China and Globalization. Ms. Song, let me go to you first. I mean, this is quite unusual. The fourth visit in 4 years from a Spanish Prime Minister, a member of NATO, a member of the European Union. Pedro Sánchez is expected to meet with Chinese leaders, marking his, of course, fourth official visit since 2023. What do you make of the frequency of these visits, and obviously the priorities given by the Spanish Prime Minister to China and vice versa?
Thanks for having me here today. Politically, I think these frequent visits show that China and Spain are steadily rebuilding and strengthening their communication mechanism, first of all. And this kind of, high-level confidence was missing for quite a while, especially during the pandemic, and also was further eroded, across Europe after, the Ukraine war started. And I see this as a start of new phase. I would say, I believe this kind of visits can soon be institutionalized through annual Sino-Spanish high-level exchanges and even a broader European one. And also from a business perspective, I would like to highlight that this visit sends a very positive signal because large-scale investments need a very stable and predictable bilateral relationship to succeed. And since 2024, we have seen several major Chinese players, companies such as CATL, Evasion, and Cherry have made significant industrial investment in Spain, and that is the best proof. So this current friendly atmosphere, I think, towards Chinese investment has played a key role and will keep playing a key role in this industry, development.
Andy, what do you make of this very consistent, high-level, robust engagement between China and Spain over the years?
Sure. Well, Wang Guan, I think, one, there's a lot that can be learned from this cadence of regular head of state meetings, and in between, very, very important, I guess we could call it staff work, to deepen the relationship and build this infrastructure that, as we just heard, is so important for long-term investment. But I think there's something deeper and even more important going on here, and that I think Spain and China share a long-term strategic vision of an integrated value chain. So starting with the sun up in the sky, to solar panels, to the electric grid, to electric transmission, to batteries, to vehicles, to jobs. And I think what's important here that I think will actually be replicated in other parts of Europe is that the China-Spain relationship is not just based on trade, but actually both countries playing pivotal roles in each section of this. So solar panels, of course, the grid, transmission, very, very important because not just for Spain, but ultimately for the entire continent of Europe, batteries, vehicles, I'm sure we'll talk about more. And then ultimately, I think for the people of Spain, job creation, high quality, high paying, environmentally friendly jobs. So I think, again, this is a very, very important development. And I think President Sanchez also shown, I think, enormous independence of thought and courage in pursuing his nation's best interests, sometimes in the face
Yeah.
of some kind of global
In the
opposition.
face of a bully and a proxy, I mean, just look at the way Prime Minister Sanchez stood up to Washington, right? Speaking against it,
Exactly.
against the invasion on Iran, blocking the U.S. military from accessing Spanish airspace. This is quite unusual. Think about it. Spain, after all, has been a member of NATO. Now, Ms. Songxin, do you see this frequency visits by a Spanish prime minister to China part of a broader trend in Europe, perhaps? If you think about French President Emmanuel Macron making his fourth formal visit last December to China, and the UK Prime Minister Starmer recently re-establishing high-level UK-China contact. And in Spain, the approval ratings, the support of the Prime Minister visiting China, establishing good relations with China, not bad ones, is over 74% of the Spanish public. What do you make about this?
Well, I think to a certain degree, it reflects, of course, a European, shift, and also European reflection, I would say, like on its past China policy during the past 10 years. At the same time, it shows, I think, the fundamental change in how Europe sees China and how it wants to cooperate and work with China. For the past 30 years, China was mainly seen as a huge market for European products, like take cars as an example. Between 2000, I think, 15 till 2018, the European brands, including also the GV in China, once held more than 50% of Chinese car market, even 55%. That was the best period for China-Europe relationship. But then we saw like the Chinese car industry, developed very fastly. Right now, the European share dropped to about 30 to 35%, and Chinese own, brands going up very quickly. Yet China still stays a very important market for Europe, but the importance declining, of course, and the competition getting tougher and tougher for European competitors. In the EV field, Chinese company also take not only just to take the technology lead in battery, but also in autonomous driving, which is the key for the future. And that is why a lot of European brands right now are seeking cooperation with, Chinese players. Volkswagen team up with XPeng, and Renault to get together with Geely. Stellantis with CATL, BMW, Mercedes with Momentum. All these are just to prove how the industry-wide they can work together in order to develop a further step into the global market. But what we are going through right now is from the previous simple complementarity period to a more complex complementarity phase. Before, China has a market, Europe has a product, so it's very easy. Right now, Europe has product, China has product, but they are different type of products. There are competition, but also a lot of room for cooperation. Both sides understand it from the business circle. Right now, it's really high time for European institution, also for the national government seeing this big potential, and in order to jump out of the previous hawkish box, seeing China only as a competitor and trying to build something all together. Spain as a very good example, because Spain is not only gateway for European market, it is also a gateway for the larger Hispanic world, which means Latin America, Central Latin America. That is even the bigger market space for the joint cooperation. So I think, of course, this a frequent visit lays not only for this bilateral relationship between China and the EU, but also for the future.
Yeah.
That is the grand future for the humanity.
This is remarkable. If you think about it, 2 years ago, the narrative in Europe was a concern about the so-called overcapacity of Chinese EVs, electric vehicles, lithium batteries, solar panels flooding the European market. If you think about what von der Leyen has said, what the European Parliament chiefs have said, what NATO has said, and now 2 years later, you have the Spanish Prime Minister, Pedro Sánchez, visiting Xiaomi, one of the premier leading Chinese electric vehicle companies, test driving the Chinese EVs. This is remarkable. Now, in his speech at Tsinghua University, Prime Minister Sánchez criticized the zero-sum mentality, warning that it could hold countries back and limit future possibilities. Here's what he said.
Hay quienes se obstinan en interpretar la realidad en clave de suma cero, en narrar el crecimiento de unos como una pérdida para el resto, o en argumentar que profundizar determinadas relaciones implica renunciar a otras. Pero yo creo que esta lectura no es solo equivocada, es también peligrosa, por inmovilista, porque nos convierte en prisioneros del pasado y limita las posibilidades que nos ofrece el futuro.
Humberto, what message do you think the Spanish Prime Minister is sending by giving that speech in China to the world?
Well, I think the message is quite clear. In these times of polarization, let's say that some people, how's the saying, when you walk around for too long time with a hammer in your hand, everything looks like a nail. Yes, we cannot think that China's success is a detriment of other countries. We should work on ways of all go forward and keep strengthening trade between Spain, China, Europe, or even the US.
And I mean, what do you make of the window of the Spanish Prime Minister's visit to China after what he said about the U.S. invasion on Iran, about U.S.-NATO relations, and about Spain's strategic autonomy? Humberto.
Well, I think the position is very clear. I'm not who to say what the Prime Minister Sánchez is trying to say. I think the message is very clear that we cannot let the US control the global market, that the world is a bigger thing, and we all should try to cooperate instead of trying to establish our own rules to favorite our countries.
I mean, trade between the two countries has been robust, right? Andy, now China-Spain trade have remained strong over the years. If I can show you real quick. In 2025, bilateral goods trade, not including services, goods trade between China and Spain exceeded $55 billion. That is a 9.8% year-on-year increase. Now, China remains Spain's largest trading partner outside the EU, with Spanish exports, particularly olive oil, wine, pork, becoming increasingly popular among Chinese consumers. So with China's economic restructuring and growing consumer demand for more and diverse products, what are the future opportunities for Chinese and Spanish trade?
I think Spain and China have important complementarities when we look at the trade relationship. And I think that will continue, it will grow. But what's really, really important here, I think partly because of the required energy transition the world has to go through, I think the future of trade and investment will also focus on energy. So I mentioned this earlier. Let me give you a couple numbers. So in 2025, Spain added about 11 gigawatts in renewable energy. That's added to a total of about 80 gigawatts plus. So, of course, this is in partnership with China. Again, every part of the value chain, solar panels, grids, batteries, say from CATL, not just vehicle batteries, but large-scale storage batteries. But the really important piece is the transmission, because I think Spain's vision is not only to produce abundant renewable energy for itself, but it could also serve as an energy source for all of Europe. And the piece that's missing are the transmission lines. And here, China is the only country in the world that has deployed UHV, ultra high voltage lines. And the remaining issues are not technological, but largely political. And again, I think this shows a powerful alignment of interest between China and Spain in a very, very important growth area. And this is not just for Europe, but Northern Africa as well. So I think this is another reason why we see Prime Minister Sánchez coming so regularly to China, because it's not just about traditional conventional trade, but I think it's also about building the energy infrastructure of the future.
I mean, this is a powerful alignment of interests. I mean, it cannot be summed up better. I mean, Spain, after all, is Europe's second largest automotive producer, supporting 1.9 million jobs. yet it struggles with a low EV market penetration of only about 11.4%. Now, Ms. Songxin, let me ask you about this. During Pedro Sanchez's visit to Xiaomi headquarters yesterday, Prime Minister Sanchez experienced even EV models such as YU7 and described Spain's competitive industrial ecosystem as a hub for high-level technological cooperation with China. Now, given Xiaomi's rapid transition from electronics to automotive manufacturing, what can Chinese tech giants specifically offer Spain to promote its own auto sectors?
Well, China can offer a lot of things for European startup and also the automotive industry. The best offer is China's mature supply chain in terms of automotive and also in terms of EV in general. Because if right now Europe starting from the scratches and to build up a mature like supply chain, it takes years. And already like Europe failed in its previous Northvolt, I think, in Sweden, and they poured a lot of money into that battery factory, but in the end, it went bankrupted, and so in the end, there's no competitive, I would say, like players to CATL or also like Samsung in Europe, or I mean European players. So I think if they team up together right now with the Chinese battery maker and also like the supply chain manufacturers, they can build up very quickly and their own product and with their own brand name. I mean, that's what like Volkswagen has been doing. That is what Stellantis, this pan-European like automotive group, is doing. They are trying to make the best of what China has already discovered and made out of this out of EV, and try to put them all together in order to have this joint automotive like final product, and trying to sell it not only in European market and also across the world. And that is the first thing China can offer, the supply chain. And the second is the talent. In China we have every year 1.5 million engineers, both in software and hardware. In Europe, that number is not even one tenth of what China can offer, right? And all this talent in China, they go through already like the procedure of understanding what the industry needs, what the markets need, and they are already get their skills and also like ability to work with foreign clients. And if they can work together with the European team, of course they can have some new great ideas, and they can find some new startup. And that is the second thing like China can offer. And the third thing, I think the most important, is the open market in China. One of the biggest disadvantage in European market is the business circle loop is extremely long. So when you have a great idea, you want to commercialize it in the market, it takes ages because of the compliance regulation. Too much regulation. Too much regulation kills regulation and the market. And therefore, it is impossible actually to launch your product first in Europe. So if ever there's a pan-European Chinese like this kind of idea, they can launch their product first in China, test it in Chinese market. When it's successful, and then they can export it to European market, or then fabricate in Europe and sell it in Europe or other market. And that would be the greatest three gifts, or the three things that China can offer for this future cooperation. No matter in automotive or in in solar panel, it's always the same. The idea is the same.
I mean, there's great complementarity over there between China and Spain in this EV sector. Now, Humberto, we know that CATL Stellantis battery plant, Europe's largest lithium-ion battery facility, stands out not only for its scale, but also for its technology transfer and the specialized training of over 4,000 Spanish workers. What concrete opportunities do Chinese technology-driven investments bring to Spain's local economy, especially if you think about industrial cooperation and job creation?
Well, probably the biggest market, it will be in solar. We are the most southern country in Spain. We have a lot of sun hours per year. But of course, there is a lot of possible cooperation with Spanish energetic companies, and for sure there will be a lot of projects coming up in the future.
Yeah, Andy, why don't you take it over? I mean, does the war in the Middle East only highlight the necessity developing a renewable sector, and then highlighting the cooperation between China and Europe in general and Spain in particular in this field?
It does, Wang Guan. And, we have to actually look back to the Ukraine conflict to really completely understand this, because this had a catastrophic impact on German industry because of its tight integration with Russian energy. So we're really just as deja vu all over again. And again, it actually does show, I think, that China's ability to plan for and actually practically prepare for these kinds of risks. And again, I think China, with its technology from solar to the grid, and in particular transmission. I think transmission is so important because Spain can generate a lot of energy, but if it cannot get it to other places in Europe that needs the energy, it's not going to be as valuable. So absolutely, I think this is win-win in that it increases energy security for Europe, but it's also driving forward the transition to a more sustainable future. And obviously, yes, I think China is playing a very important role here. And just briefly, I want to add, what else can China bring to Europe? I think it's entrepreneurial dynamism and a can-do spirit. Because if we look at Xiaomi, I think another reason Prime Minister Sanchez went to Xiaomi is that if you look at creating a car, an electric vehicle, Apple tried it, took years, spent billions of dollars in Project Titan, and ultimately had to walk away. And Xiaomi accomplished this in something like, I think, less than 3 years. So again, I think the entrepreneurial dynamism, the can-do spirit, as well as the full spectrum of renewable energy technologies really, I think, make it a very complementary relationship between China and Spain.
Also, there has been great and very robust people-to-people exchanges between China and Spain, which is increasingly becoming a gateway for China to access Europe. If you think about the Chinese tourists taking the liberty of easier visa applications to go to Spain, digital nomads going to Spain, and Spain's a very easy digital nomad visa system. Now, talking about trade, Ms. Song Xin, the trade relationship between China and Spain looks foundational between China and Europe. Spain currently stands as China's fifth largest trading partner within the European Union, while China remains Spain's primary trading partner outside of the European Union. This creates a significant economic weight that influences broader regional dynamics. How do you see China and Spain, perhaps blazing a new trail for the broader China-European trading relations going forward?
Well, of course, I think there's a big potential in that trend. And as I said, it's not only about bilateral, it's more about how to jointly cooperate together in order to develop the world market. I give also like another example, like why I see like this Stellantis CATL cooperation really important. Stellantis is most of its factory is in Spain, and part of it's also in North Africa, mostly not in Algeria, Morocco, and there is a port called Tangier, and they have also a huge factory there. So the aim is not only to develop the European market, through Spain this gateway, but also to first develop the North Africa market, Algeria, Morocco, and all together, and then get into dark sub-Saharan Africa, which means like Western Africa, Nigeria, and Ghana, and also Eastern Africa, Ethiopia, all this part. The market stands actually for the future of the whole world, because most of I think in 20 years, 70% of the world population growth is going to be from Africa. So who can get Africa gets the future. And so that is important for the current Sino-Spanish cooperation, and also Sino-European cooperation in general. So it's not only about this, like bilateral thing. It's about how to get together in order to develop further opportunities abroad. in Latin America or in Africa. And that is where the market is going to be booming, because European market and also Eastern Asia market, to be very honest, sadly shrinking because population declining. And we have to aim for the markets where the population grows, and that is Latin America and also like Africa. So that is the trend. That is why I see like a huge potential in this cooperation. I think that it's going to be a huge success in the future if this like friendly atmosphere can continue. But of course, there are also some instability factors plays, such as U.S. influence and such as Brussels influence. And that's why I always highlight. I'm not Europe bashing, but I have to like strengthen the fact that the Brussels institution need to take a deep understanding of what their industry really needs. They don't need more regulation because already they have too much. What they need is a pragmatic approach towards China and how to cooperate with China.
I mean, if you think about one last issue that we're yet to touch, that is strategic autonomy. Many European countries have been talking about strategic autonomy, France, Germany, some Nordic countries. But when it comes to walking the walk, I mean, Spain has certainly been in the forefront. If you think about its position, protesting against the U.S. war on Iran, now forging ever closer relations with China, so on and so forth. Now, I want to thank all of our panelists for their wonderful interventions and insights, and that would do it for this edition of The Hub on CGTN. I'm Wang Guan in Beijing. Thank you for watching.